Hello everyone to everyone's favorite podcast about Gemini movies. I'm Alice of Water and my co-host.
Oi, governor! That's a bloody megamind.
Wow!
That
Wow.
was my worst British impression.
Yeah,
I'm Ludovico. I'm here live in the studio.
well, yeah, we're here in the studio in Portugal, Switzerland.
The Portuguese Swiss Gemini Movies studio.
Yeah, it's the combination Burger King studio. What do we call podcasts?
We record in the fast food joint in that one Modern Warfare 2 mission.
Yeah.
It's exactly where we are right now.
Okay, let's start. As always, we're gonna talk about the movies of today: Megamind and Despicable Me. We're gonna do a bit of things, but before, as always, like always, before like we talk about the movies. We do a show and tell of a piece of media we want to talk about, and just talk about how the month has been going. So, Ludo, you start, please.
Yeah, I had a pretty good month. I was mostly gaming, so I'm gonna bring a game today again, like I did last time. I swear it's not gonna be a game every time. It's just these two times. Today I'm gonna talk about Guilty Gear Strive. That's how they say it in the title. I picked this game up so I can learn it to play it like at a game night at some friend's place. I learned it in a week, and it's pretty funny. I had real trouble when I first saw the game understanding what's going on, but now that I'm a bit more experienced with fighting games, it actually makes a lot more sense. And I had a friend who's good at Guilty Gear basically give me a crash course to like understand stuff like Roman cancels. There's a lot of things I still don't understand at all. Like there's stuff like weight and guts. There's guts, Alice. Do you know what guts are in Guilty Gear?
Explain.
I think it influences how much damage you take.
Well,
and if you have high guts, you take less damage. And Japanese people have high guts. That's what I learned from Guilty Gear.
wow, just
Yeah.
like blood types.
It's just like blood types. It's just like what is it called? The star signs.
Wow.
It's just like that stuff. But the Roman cancel system is very elegant. It just basically makes you be more plus. So you can use it for all kinds of shenanigans. It's basically like Dios the World if it was shitty.
Well,
And every character had it. That's basically Roman canceling.
who do you mean?
I mean Ramlethal. She's the girl with the big swords.
Oh, I thought it would be Testament, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm definitely think Testament is really cool character, but they are DLC and I don't have that.
Oh, so you just have the base characters.
Yeah, I just have the base characters. I will maybe pick up Ramlethal, Testament someday because they're cool.
So, before I go to my thing, I might as well just ask you, because we talked privately about this. You have a very much struggle with anime fighters. How do you want this in the anime fighters difficulty where, like, the top of the difficulty is the human echo tag fighting game?
I think Strive is probably the most entry-level anime fighting game that currently exists. That's why I can play it, because it's not too fast. And except for like some characters, you don't really have to understand all of their wild tools to play against them.
Yeah.
And there's very good tutorials that like break down the mechanics and explain to you certain advanced techniques and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good as somebody's like first anime fighting game. I can recommend it. I played Blaze Blue and that shit was way more hard to learn, and I got cooked way harder by good players there.
Yeah, from what I understand, in terms of fighting games, it actually has surprisingly good totalization and stuff. Also, before we move, I just want to say, uh, if even if you don't care about Guilty Gear, I recommend everyone to watch the Guilty Gear story mode. First try, it's very good. It's extremely very good, high quality anime content.
Yeah, it's basically like anime Olympus has fallen if it was funny.
This is really fucking hilarious. Okay, my thing. So I'm 24 now. It's my birthday. I have a very much very come with busy months, just like trying to do things, prepare for my birthday. I'm that for now and doing some other things. But in another Discord I am in, there's a comics channel I frequent, and in the comics channel there's a guy that we likes the comics for Injustice, who I'm kind of friends with. So this year, I think, it was announced that the Injustice universe of like the Injustice comics is slightly different from the fighting game. Will return in a comics event called World to Injustice. So never before, so that person was like joking about, hey, we should all read the Injustice because they haven't read the Injustice comics in a bit. So I was like, I never read the comics. So now I have read all of the Injustice comics. It's like 100 plus issues. I read it all in a day. Or 2 days, kinda. Um, it's awful, though. It's awful. It's bad.
You did mention that it's not good, but you didn't go into specifics.
Okay.
So, I want to hear what's bad.
Okay, so a couple things. So Injustice, the story, it's a fighting game by NetherRealms. The comics adapts the story, but same side the voices from it. So the main story is the Joker. So the story of Injustice is the Joker puts a bomb in Lois Lane. I think manipulates. no, the thing is, so the Joker is fighting Superman. So the Joker uses some gas or something to make so Superman thinks that Lois is the Joker, and makes Superman kill Lois by driving her into the sun. And so Superman goes Joker mode and kills the Joker because of that, and then then basically goes, I cannot do this anymore. I'm to protect the world. I must become its dictator. So he becomes evil and tries to govern the world, basically. And also because this is an American comic, he's vaguely communist. Like we saw,
he becomes a vague communist.
Yeah, like we saw him like waking up, like watching the Middle East and everything. And because this is like portrayed by like American writers, it's like not American. The writer for this is Australian, but basically kind of the same thing. Sorry, Australians, but basically Americans with a funny accent. Joking. But anyway, but yeah. So there's stuff like Superman. It's very funny because there's stuff like Superman. Stopping wars in the Middle East, but because he's using his actual power and sincerity, it's like potatoes. Oh no, this is good, but too much. So the Injustice comics are divided into like 5 parts. There's like 5 years. There's extra stuff, but the extra stuff really doesn't matter. It's just backstory and prequels and shit. The first year, it's a Superman. It's like Superman, like just setting up the first year. The second year is the Green Lanterns, is like the Space Cop of DC, fights Superman, he wins. It's surprisingly very well written. The third year is the Magic people, so like Swamp Thing, Zon Constantine. They try to fight Superman, they all die in like an issue.
Damn.
So the first 2 issues of this are like fine superhero comics. I've read a lot of this shit. It's the same. It's the same. It's the same like bad. Oh no, this guy is turning evil. And now he's killing a bunch of people. But like in terms of bad Superman stories, Superman guns bad stories, they're not the worst. But by year 3, the cracks start falling because it just starts becoming kill, and it becomes absurd into a level of ridiculous. To give an example, in year 3, it basically finishes by Superman killing all of the supernatural characters, so they basically don't need so they can have basically not a way to defeat Superman. So most of the story becomes we need to kill a lot of the characters, so Superman doesn't have an out. But he gets defeated, so it's just basically wasting time till the end. The writing becomes intensely horrible. A lot of things just happens. A lot of it is just hey, there's a cat. You may remember they get killed in the chapter. But by year 4, which was I write this for a bit, the politics start becoming hilarious because they leaning more into the Superman's an evil communist guy. So there's talks about, so there's conflates, but because they asked to try to do fascism allegory, he becomes like a weird communist fascist guy. It becomes.
Does he have like a big brutalist building that he lives in?
No, he just lives in like the Justice League base in the moon. But what?
Aw.
But basically, what happens is the politics become very confused. So you have this like bizarre anti-fascist story of Batman trying to defeat Superman, but then there's stuff about Superman being doing stuff like he's like feeding the poor, but it's too much because he's using his powers.
Does he say his Injustice entry line from the game, Batman?
No, I don't remember.
Where he just says, "I'm Batman."
I don't think so. So,
Okay.
but all this culminates into a thing that I said in Luthor with there's for some reason this first happens in a chapter in an issue. It's never brought up again. There's a communist underground of communists inspired by the Joker, and then Batwoman shows up and says, "Oh, you can't do this." Because you need to protest peacefully, and you can't invoke the Joker.
I always tell like Joker communists that they need to be peaceful and respectful. Like that's how you de-radicalize them.
And you don't.
Telling them about respectability politics.
And you don't invoke the song. This is the thing about disasters. It's hard to explain because it's 5 years of comics, but like just summarize so I can go into the movie. But the thing with disasters is it starts as this kind of very interesting takes. There's like interesting character writing and stuff like that about like what would happen. It becomes like basically this thing of a scenario of like how various characters would react to Superman, which is much more interesting than a lot of evil Superman stories. But what happens is it becomes very edgy in terms of several characters dying. But after that, it tries to basically. This is fascinating. It's why I've been fascinated by reading this. It tries to mix like real world politics with like the fake world of DC, which like a lot of media does. But it ends up in this weird mess where you have the local communists. But they're bad because it's using the same like liberal centrist arguments that liberals use against like any kind of leftists, but it's set it in this DC universe, so they just become straw men of like, oh, you're invoking the circle, and that's bad.
Like, why even communists? Like, you would think the Joker fans are like anarchists or something.
It's like I said, like this thing is like intensely really political because like again, like Batman is the main hero in this, and like the way Batman rebuilds the world in this is by literally getting a council of Wiz people, of like Wiz, the biggest, like most famous Wiz characters like DC Universe, and just going, okay, we're gonna rebuild the world. They do a 9-1 load, it's Atlas fucking Slugger. He just
They heal the world with philanthropy.
No, he gets a council of them, and they just decide the policy of like rebuilding the world, and that's portrayed as like a good thing. Like,
he got good credit from Bill Gates.
Like again, it's just a simulation. It's just like half like incredibly easy like NetherRealm storytelling because it's very much still drawing from the NetherRealm games, and at the same time, it's very much a thing that wants to talk about politics, wants to use the evils of Superman as an allegory. But the thing is, because it's written by centrists from Australia and America, it fundamentally refuses to actually have a coherent anything it's saying. So it just becomes this weird messing of like Superman's both the fastest and a communist. There's like a billion million of ideologies. It's a mess. It's hilarious, but it's a mess. And I'm looking forward for the new DC event. Return to Disasters, where Superman's like in the main universe. Currently, Superman has a son, and apparently he's turning into a cyborg for this event. So get cyborg Superman, studio. Get hype. I love comic books. That was Disasters, people.
Okay, that's a good segue because we have superheroes today.
Superheroes don't best. Not superheroes, but supervillains or something.
Yeah, we kind of have a superhero turn bad. but it's like a constructed superhero
Okay.
that was made with a syringe.
Anyway, let's say I also say my thoughts about this because we have said our overall thoughts on the movie. I really like Megamind. I think of the like DreamWorks is like a bit. I will talk about this in the things, but DreamWorks is a very weird studio. So currently they're pretty much probably my favorite American studio in terms of like mainstream American animated like films animation. They've been doing a lot of interesting work. If they're very much like 2010s, like 2000s work, I think Mega Man is one of the strongest works. It's very funny, very enjoyable. It has some surprisingly decent scripting moments. I think it's a very enjoyable movie. Despicable Me, it's a movie. It exists. I gave it a movie out of 5. It's a movie. Oh.
Yeah, I'm very similar in my overall impression. Megamind is surprisingly more funny and like charismatic than I expected. And Despicable Me is just like a really mid movie, animation movie that you put kids in front of so they're distracted.
It's such a movie. Like here's the thing, as an animation head, as a person that cares about animation, I've seen a lot because I think there's value in not just watching. Because I think animation suckers can be a bit focused too much on just like getting prestige animation or like animation for adults, and like I do like watching kids animation because there's a lot of good kids animation in animation. But like the speaker, I've seen so much fucking kids movies because I like thinking about kids animation, and this is probably one of the most nothing. This is probably one of the most nothing kids animated movies I've seen that is not like a direct to DVD movie. That's not like Alpha and Omega 6, Alpha Goes to Space, or something like that. Though.
It is better than Pinocchio 3000, though.
Yeah, but that's like the video, I think.
No, I think that had that came out in cinemas in like France.
Wow, that's amazing. But anyway, what's your thoughts? Same thing, just.
Yeah. I already summarized my thoughts.
Okay.
Let's dig into the. Let's just take a quick moment to remember 2010. What were you up to in 2010?
I was 11, going to school.
So you were like almost the target audience for these.
Yeah, I've seen like as a kid. I guess this is why I actually still really like animation. Like I've seen a lot of like. Like as a kid, like 2000, like 2009, 2010, I was, of course, if I went to the theater, the only movies I would see would be like stuff like a DreamWorks movie or like a Disney movie. So I've seen like, so by this point I've seen like, my first movie ever in like the theater was like Masters vs. Aliens. So I would probably I don't think I've seen this in the theater, but I know I've seen Megamind like a million times on TV in like 2013, 2014. I would see Megamind and Despicable Me so much. But yeah, like so 2010, I was like kind of like the demographic for this. I was watching a lot of cartoons, going to school, of course. I was very much like interested in like superheroes and supervillain stuff. Like I've always been.
Yeah. No, in 2010, my interest in Despicable Me and Megamind was absolutely zero because I was 19 and I was too cool for kids' movies.
Wow.
I was too occupied with my sex, drugs, and rock and roll lifestyle.
Wow.
But yeah, it's weird thinking back to that era. Because animation was just getting good enough for like humans to not look creepy anymore.
Yeah, that's a thing.
This is like the first couple of movies, like 2009, 2011 is when they started looking normal or like acceptable.
Yeah, the history of CGI animation is like its own thing, but like in specific in America because of like Pixar and like not the most of CGI. At this point in like 2023, all the big American studios use CGI, primarily CGI studios, but by like 2010, by that point, like people were like, it was very much like you had like Toy Story in the 90s, right? Toy Story was like 99, right? And then you had like other Pixar works, but a lot of studios were still struggling. Like DreamWorks was first a 2D studio with stuff like Prince of Egypt and like Spirit and the Sinbad movie. They then moved to CGI, but They weren't even primarily a CGI studio.
I
They,
guess Sinbad is like a transitional piece because it adds a lot of like 3D CGI
yes,
stuff in there.
yeah, CGI. I think pieces of that, so use some CGI. But you started to see like CGI was still very much like entering this phase. Here's the thing with any media. Like this happens. This happened in comics. This happened actually animation 2 times. It happened in It happened in comics when they went into like digital drawings. It happens in animation when animation went into digital animation and a lot of TV animation. There's gonna be when making art. There's gonna be a lot of evolutions in that art, and the thing with evolutions in a lot of art is you cannot just transfer skills from even if it's in the same medium. So like.
Yeah.
CGI animation, why being animation, is different in making animation the same way that the stop motion is a different kind of animation. They all require different techniques, and artists primarily taught on 2D animation or like 3D traditional drawing animation are gonna have like a time, like taking in. You need to actually train these people and like actually educate them in like the new ways of like animating stuff. So like
Yeah, also, with CGI, there's like a technology evolution happening in the 2000s where like the software is getting better and everything.
yeah, so it's done on computers by a lot of points and like a lot of stuff like that. You cannot just draw it, like it, like because of that. Like there's always going to be a bumpy road, and like for a lot of, like you can see this in like when you talk about like Surf's Up and like Happy Feet. There's like still like a lot of like bumpy roads before like CGI animation became like watchable, like
Yeah,
became like not uncanny valley stuff.
especially with how humans look,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because like animals are more easy to do,
Like you watch like the first Toy Story, that looks fine still.
except
Besides,
when the humans are on screen. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So like, there's always gonna be a bumpy one, and like this was the point where like, this was like the point where like DreamWorks kind of was getting it. Same thing when like you had a lot of new studios from like old animation people showing up, so, like the Despicable Me studio and stuff like that. Okay, but yeah, do you want to talk about the history of the studios, Ludo? The studios, like the like the production.
You can give us a bit about Illumination because you already described DreamWorks, right?
So Illumination is like kind of one of the kind of like Illumination is an interesting case. They're like one of those studios where like if you see like a lot of people who dunk like this happens a lot to like animation on YouTube. A lot of people like dunking on very much like dead animal like style on like a lot of these kids animation studios. Illumination is one of those that people always like to dunk on. So it was founded in 2007 by an ex Blue Sky people. Blue Sky being ISAs, robots, stuff like that. I got was founded by like a former people from Blue Sky, like an American called Chris Madrini, and then
Okay.
primarily in 2011 they got the animation studio of the French visual effects company McGrath, who worked on like a bunch of French movies, a bunch of stuff. And this is what makes because Blue Sky is an American company, but most of their animation is done in France
Mm-hmm.
by the animation part of this like big special effects company. So Blue Sky, so Despicable Me in particular was the idea of like a guy called Sergio Pablos. He's a very important person in Spanish animation. He just puts the idea of like a supervillain has to take care of the kids, the other stuff like the minions and everything. That was like later on added by the other people. The original pits didn't even have the minions. He brought the idea to the president of Blue Sky, from Illumination. They got writers to reworking it, and then when they got access to their finance animation department, they put them to work. So like they're a kind of very younger studio, come from like break away from another studio, and very much are in that mood. Like Illumination is weird because they're very much like and like that. that style of like kids movies, and I feel like they get a lot of stick because they're just kind of doing the thing that everyone's kind of tired of, because everyone's just kind of tired of the same, like the same here's the same kids movies that are doing the same thing, etc always. And they don't really do a lot with that. They have an animation style that's interesting, but besides that, they're kind of just the same thing, and because that they get a lot of shit. Some deserve some
Yeah.
lot. DreamWorks, we already explained DreamWorks, I think, didn't we? Like, I think
I
everyone knows.
think most people also like know a lot about the history, like with Katzenberg and Shrek
Yeah,
and all that stuff.
like if you listen to this podcast, you probably know a bit about animation, at least American animation. DreamWorks is DreamWorks. They have a lot of things. They're very much a company that deserves like their own podcast. They're DreamWorks. It's hard to explain. They're very much like the anti-Disney made on purpose, and because of that, they have very much high highs, low lows, and are very much the brain side of a vindictive weirdo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
So
I think that's enough stage setting. Let's get into our main segments. Okay, cast and acting in Megamind. Let's get into the meat of it. I'm gonna read off the main cast.
yeah,
We got Will Ferrell as Megamind, Tom McGrath as Lord Scott, Jonah Hill as Hal Stewart, Ben Stiller as Bernard, Tina Fey as Roxanne Ritchie, Brad Pitt as Metro Man, David Cross as Minion, and Justin Theroux, okay, as Megamind's father. So, what do you think? What do you think of the cast and acting in this one?
it's pretty enjoyable, I think. Besides for David Cross, we should see it. You can look it up on Wikipedia. But besides that, it's like pretty decent. I was surprised how much like Will Ferrell was like Megamind. To be honest, I am not a Will Ferrell head. I think he's mostly just kind of very always annoying with his comedy stick, but like I think it works in Megamind. It's hard to describe why. I guess it's just because of the design, because he's already just a funny blue guy. Like it's much more. It much more palatable for me than just like, oh, he's already just a cartoon character, so I can start more of like Will Ferrell's top theater, you know.
Yeah, I don't like Will Ferrell most of the time, but he's very good in this, so I
Yeah,
totally get you.
like yeah, I think he gets the cartoon mannerism. I think that's helped by a lot of the animation stuff, which makes a lot of his normal stick very palatable. Brad Pitt as Metro Man. He's very much doing a Superman pastiche.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was very much the intention here.
Yeah, he's very much doing a Superman pastiche. Wait a second.
Ben Stiller was pretty
Por
okay.
favor, não entres.
Tina Fey does a good job.
Yeah, the definition not the person I don't really like. Doing very much like a Loner Slave spoof. Shh. See. Very much doing like a Lois Lane spoof that I think mostly works. Zona Hill is like Hal Stewart is pretty funny, honestly.
Yeah, he
Surprise-
actually is very good in his role as like the incel man.
He's so actually quick thing. So Hal Stewart is a reference to the Green Lantern. That's thing. It's a combination of like two characters' names. That's just some comic book trivia for you. But anyway, he's very much just playing like. It's interesting because he's very much just playing like your typical like Zona Hill character, but very much more, even more self-paradise because he's just like a little incel man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He very much when he gets the superhero persona, that's it becomes even more funnier to be honest, because Zona Hill plays very much like his very much like privilege, like self-entitledness, in a way that's surprisingly fucking good. I really like it. I think the cast is honestly very well. I think there's a very much understanding of the material and the sort of like parodies of superheroes and just playing around with that. And can be surprisingly dramatic for what it is. I think it's solid as a lot of it is helped by the animation. A lot of his characters are very expressive. They do very much cartoony mannerisms. It's surprisingly pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I should mention this here or in the plot, but I think they improvised a lot of the script. Like apparently like 40%, and it was like hours and hours of improv, right?
Yeah.
And I think it really shows in this movie because like they found the funny bits, and that makes the movie like very entertaining
Yeah.
because it doesn't feel stilted. A lot of the humor is like very well timed, and like you can tell they had like 3 days of audio and picked up the best improvisational bits.
Yeah, I want to say that's a thing with animation also, because with animation, typically when you're doing acting, people are also doing the drawings, just like Flounder's drawings. A lot of people, animation lends itself very much well to improv because it's so, because since you're creating this image, a lot of people, can make up a bit by following those pictures, or like having somebody talking and then somebody drawing. And it lends
Yeah, yeah,
itself
yeah.
to like, it lends itself to a lot to improv and just making jokes and stuff like that. It can be very loose. I don't know how the animation was done and like how they did the voice acting, but I can very much understand like, oh yeah, people just very much having fun with this and just making a bunch of jokes, and they got the good jokes. I think most of the jokes in this work because of the cast. Honest, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
it's surprisingly funny.
yeah, Mega Man. Like I wanna say this, Mega Man's just a very funny guy. He's extremely funny, to be honest. Like I said again, I don't even like Will Ferrell, but he's very funny. Do you wanna go to Despicable Me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. So the Despicable Me cast is Steve Carell as Felonious Gru, Pierre Coffin as Bob the Minion,
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig as Miss Hattie, Miranda Cosgrove as Margot Gru, Chris Renault as Dave the Minion, uh, Dana Gayer as Edith, Russell Brand as Dr. Nefario, and Elsie Fisher as Agnes.
The performances in this, they're fine, I guess. They're fine.
What kind of accent is Steve Carell doing? Does anybody know that?
Yeah, we didn't make this. So let's talk about the Google accent discourse. So at first, because this is very much the James Bond prestige. Google is the James Bond variant. I thought he was just like Eastern European because a lot of James Bond variants are Eastern European. So I thought he was just doing like like a very big bad American accent European argument. But it
Yeah,
didn't.
either Russian or like Transylvanian.
But then later in the movie, he talks Spanish. So we are now very confused if it's meant to be a Spanish accent because the person who wrote presented the story is very Spanish person. So it's like, is he meant to be Spanish? Is he meant to
There's
be?
also like old concept art from before they made the final design where he's basically a warlock or
Yeah.
like a necromancer.
Yes, I'm like, we are very confused because here's the thing, this doesn't seem like an accent. It's like, it's so, it doesn't, like, here's the thing, I've seen a lot of bad Russian and even Spanish accents. I cannot tell where the go is from. I,
Yeah, his nationality is ambiguous.
is he meant to be Russian? Is he meant to be thing? Here's the thing, Steve Carell's performance is fine, but because the movie saw nothing, I mostly just think in terms of his performances of the accent, because it's so, I am confused what it's meant to be.
Yeah, it could also be like a French accent. I really can't tell. It could be anything.
It can be anything. The other, do you have anything about? I want to talk about the other things, but I was just asking. Do you have anything to say about Goose, like performances by Steve Carell?
I think it's like very, for the most part, it's like not that over the top. Like he stays pretty contained. Megamind is way more expressive and like extravagant, and like Gru is very much like scheming and more quiet.
Like I
He
can see,
doesn't get loud a lot.
like I can see what they're doing because like a lot of James Bond villains and spy movie villains are like that, but also because the script is nothing. There's really nothing that Steve Carell does that, like compared to Megamind, School is just not that funny of a guy. And
Yeah, and like the emotional core works in that like one scene where he reads the bedtime story to like the girls.
yeah.
But like that's one scene in a 90-minute movie, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
That's where he really sells me on it, and that's one scene.
Like it's like it's very much like I don't think anyone's performances in this are bad. I don't really like I get nothing. Like I guess the most important people would be like the kids that who adopt and like they're just kids, sweetie.
Yeah, yeah.
There's
I
just
think
like
there's not the same playfulness in the performances that there is in Megamind.
yeah, because Megamind, like I don't know how much. I know Sona is like a big comic book fan, but I don't know how much of the other people like comics or like superhero stories. But you can see like they at least like understand the material they're doing. You know, like they're riffing on like traditional ideas of superheroes and supervillains, and just
Yeah, it could be a thing in direction too, like the
like
way they're directed.
yeah, but like with like yeah, like with Father like his Megamind, he's very much like a parody of like those comic book villains that are like just Mega Man and he's just being slightly more self-aware about it. Well, like none of the things are really parodying like James Bond like Paul movie villains. It's just like the kids are just kids. They're just very much generic movie kids. There's not a lot. The performances are fine, but there's not a lot of the script. And this is one of the things that, like a lot of performances in media are impacted by the script. A lot of people can make a very bad script good in performances, but in this is not one of those cases. There's was a band that's like Dot on the Value, and it's like I guess he's like the sidekick because he's like the creator of the embarrassments and not the memes, but like just the embarrassments and stuff like that. He's just there. I don't
Yeah,
even
he's
know.
just playing an old guy. That's basically his thing.
Old guy. Yeah, just playing the old guy. Same thing with like I like Jason Segel a lot as an actor, but like he is like the main villain of the movie back to is just like nothing because he's just playing Mandark from Dexter. You know Mandark, Ludo, the guy, Dexter's enemy from Dexter's Lava, the guy with like the big head, wears
It's
glasses.
I I can only think of the monkey from Powerpuff Girls right now.
Yeah, no, but yeah, he's just playing like your typical like naughty supervillain guy.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
just doing that type of trope that has been just done to that for years. There's not he's like a good performance, but like the performance is just like again like Guru is just a villain guy with the hat. Dr. Nefel is just old guy. The kids are just kids. Bactor is just like
Yeah, yeah.
no
Everybody's
villain.
basically doing the most basic version of their character,
Yeah, it's just
except for the ambiguous accent.
which is interesting because I guess I go back. I can talk more about this when we move to other things. But like you look up the sketches of like this movie, and it's like the designs became more and more animated, and it would be interesting to see like like Steve Carell voicing this warlock version of Ghoul. A bit like I don't even like these movies a lot, but I think a lot about like the Hotel Transylvania movies because I don't know if you ever seen one of them, though, but
Nope.
but there was basically Adam Sandler plays basically that the same thing as Ghoul, but as Dracula, but it's much more better because he has a more elastic cartoony designer. So even a typical like evil Dracula design becomes much more interesting because of the animation, because of like the bombaster. There's just not a lot here. There's not really a lot to
Yeah, yeah.
say.
Okay, okay.
Oh, the minions! We
Let
forgot to mention the minions.
Yeah, but like, what can we say about their acting?
They make funny sounds.
They make funny noises and say banana.
Yeah, that's yeah, that's the minions, Lolo. That's the minions.
That's the minions for you.
Okay,
We gotta move on, or this will be the longest episode since we had the last animated movies.
okay. Let's go.
Okay, let's go to the plot of Megamind. This is a fun riff on superhero story conventions without becoming too referential. Like,
Yeah,
it's not wasting time with doing a lot of pop culture jokes.
yeah.
It's more like riffing on the tropes of the genre without becoming too specific, even if it is very Superman in some points.
It's very interesting because comparing this with even a Marvel movie, like this is a very mainstream movie, but like it doesn't feel Marvel-y. Well, this was before Marvel became a weird thing, but it ever feels like it's just laughing at itself or like mocking the material. Like it's very much just playing straight. You got Mega Man as the bad guy. You got Metal Man as the good guy. Megamind thinks he's killed the bad guy, and then just basically has an answer test of guys about what to do, and it never feels, never feels mocking, never feels like haha superheroes like the thing Marvel does, or like it just feels like they're like kind of afraid of just like embracing the material they're talking about.
Yeah, according to an interview, the core idea for the script was what if what if Lex Luthor killed Superman? What would we do then?
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense. Like that the writers were like superhero fans that were just playing with these ideas.
Yeah, I think it works surprisingly. Like there's a lot of like surprisingly like interesting material done. Like it's not a very kids animated movie, but like it surprisingly there's a lot of like Mega Mind's entire existence is like just being this, and now that the thing he did for a long time is fairness is like he really doesn't have a meaning. This is why the movie just becomes kind of like a rom-com because he just finds love because of that. This is like a nice like combination of like he becomes empty, so he finds something, that something is love. Very like cliche, but it works in that. Like the plot in this is cliche, but it follows the beats very much nice, in a way that's enjoyable for what it is.
Yeah. It pays off with like the way it's acted and the way the jokes work in it. That like you are invested in the story.
I do like just the incel guy, he's not a healing incel guy, because it adds like as a villain. He's a bit not a bit of a surprise, but like adds him as like like a not a typical villain for that. And he's just like Mega Man's like I need a new hero to defeat me, so I'm just gonna get a new cell and trick him to convince him that he's Superman. That's his surprise.
Yeah. And it doesn't work. Like you can't just make a guy super strong and expect that he's gonna be a hero.
Yeah, I love that because it's a very good joke that just pays off into automatically. It's surprisingly fucking a good script. I really like it.
It is kind of ahead of its time in how it dunks on insecure, nerdish guys.
Yeah. It's very good. I don't. Do you have a lot to say? I don't think the plot is like the most complex thing. It's just enjoyable. Do you have anything to say about it, Ludo?
No, I think it's well executed and well thought through. The core premise.
Despicable Me. It's a plot.
Yeah, it has its moments, but it's kind of a slog. I feel like the middle part of that movie really drags. Like the inciting action is like this fucking shrink ray. And then they get the shrink ray, then he loses the shrink ray, then he gets the shrink ray back, then he gets some kids to get the shrink ray back. And all that shit wastes so much time. It's like a it's like a Dragon Quest side quest, Yeah. You have to get the 4 diamonds before you can go to the final castle and shit.
Yeah, it's just like it's kind of just very like like plodding, I guess.
It's treading water for a while.
It's really spinning its wheels, just like moving, sucking along. It's it feels like I normally don't try to be armchair script, right? About movies I talk about, but like it really feel bad if the movie was just like him with the kids, to be honest. Because the shrink ray thing is just kind of nothing. It's like just having the start, or like the very much start of it just being him with the kids would be better than just like having this like weird main plot that really just spins its wheels alongside the kid stories.
Yeah, like it leads to a cool set piece where they go to space and steal the moon and everything, but I don't know. Like if this movie didn't have the minions, nobody would remember this shit.
It's weird because just like 4 Despicable Me movies about school, alongside like the 3, but like I've seen the later ones. It's not a review of the later ones, but I've seen the later ones, and you can see the minions just take over the franchise by even the second one, because the second one is just about the minions, kind of basically. So they kind of just talk over the series that even the kids are minor characters, and
Yeah, makes sense.
I can notice why because like the thing about the minions is they're annoying, but specifically because also doing some research on this, they're very much like they're inspired by Oompa Loompas and like I forgot the other one, but like all of those like programmatic like racist like little guy type characters and like
Yeah, like just like weird exotic dwarfs.
yeah.
That's like the brand they come from.
And this like this series from a French studio of the was like there's like a lot of those implications. It's not good, but I can see why a kid like would not like a kid wouldn't think about that and just would say, "Hey, funny yellow guy makes the noises." Like I can see why the minions are popular.
I love that multiple articles that you sent me about the minions were unsure what the hell they are. Like nobody knows what the fuck they are. Are they are they sentient? Are they organic? Are they like created in a lab or like nobody knows what they are, but they're popular.
Yeah, it's
They're just weird beings.
I don't think it says a lot about this movie that like the part that people most cling to, even in just like people sending memes and stuff, like it's just the minions. Like there's not really a Ghoul meme. There's like there's like no there's a Ghoul meme. The one where he talks about his plan, but that's not even about his cat. It's just like generic plan B goes wrong, then I don't know what to do plan A.
Yeah.
Like it's just I can see why the memes are popular because this is just a nothing plot to be honest. It tries to be this emotional family drama, but it's so distracted by also being like a kind of weird like James Bond supervillain parody thing that's just like doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
Do you have more to say about the plot? Not really, probably.
Nah.
Okay,
Let's go to the themes of Megamind.
you start?
I think. Do you hear me?
Yeah. I was just
Okay.
saying start and yourself. Outside the memes.
Okay.
The themes, not memes.
The memes are later. Nature versus nurture and masculinity.
Yeah.
To a listener's note, there's a 117-page academic paper about masculinity in Megamind that Alice sent me. I didn't read it because I'm never gonna like read 117 pages about masculinity in Megamind, except if my life depends on it,
Yeah.
because that's a lot of academic writing. But that's definitely like a fig here because we gotta talk. We gotta talk about like Megamind acting like a drag queen for a lot of the movie.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like I mentioned this before. Like animation itself has a history of like making like queer coded villains and stuff like that. That are specifically a lot of the histories are based on like famous queer people, like queer things, like just mannerisms, of course. Very much mannerisms associated with like non-normativity that a lot of our media depicts as evil, or just what to mocking it. But superhero comics in specific also have like specifically because of the history of superhero comics, a lot of villains were queer coded specifically in like the 50s and stuff because the evil like non-normative people expressing their identities, etc., etc. So that blends itself to Megamind a lot. That history in animation, in superhero fiction. Also, I just think it's very much things easy to do because it's easy to do that side animation. Also, very much like the cartoon.
But I feel there's like a self-awareness here.
Yeah. Oh no, that's
Like they're playing with this stereotype.
no.
And they love it. Like they give Megamind an even more drag queen suit at the end of the movie.
Yeah. No, I think that it's on purpose. I think they understand, even if probably not like in the most like smart way ever, but they probably understand what they'll do in just going to that, and it works. At Megamind doesn't never feels like that offensive or anything. Just like it works with the comedy side and everything.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of refreshing to have a movie where there's a villain who's like queer coded, but he's also the protagonist.
Yeah, I think that lends itself a lot to Megamind because like it's part of the theme of like, oh yeah, you think this guy is a villain, but he's just a guy, a funny guy basically. He's just like a normal guy mostly. Like it's the thing with a lot of superhero fiction they always think about because a lot of superhero fiction wants to be a lot of superhero fiction puts itself in good and evil, but that good and evil is abstracted. So I think a lot of later superhero fiction in the 90s and 80s played that, but to the point that like technically megamind or like other supervillains are doing crime, but the crime is so abstracted that it has nothing to do with like, you know,
Real crimes anymore.
it's
Yeah.
like a lot of like the ways superhero comics, specific because of the past, because of the 50s, they couldn't depict really like they couldn't depict modern stuff. So it becomes like people are fighting in this good and evil fight, but it's not really about like a lot of superheroes are not really ideologically evil or like they are, but like it's never it's never like they're really even like right wing ideologically or like
I
what
mean,
it's
the movie kind of plays into it because his only thing is like abducting this journalist, like he was Lex Luthor.
yeah
And like everybody is aware of it, like the journalist, she's aware of it, the hero is aware of it, that this
it's
is just like a cyclical thing that keeps happening.
it,
It's not even like seen as something terrible anymore. It's just a situation that keeps coming up.
it's a performance. It's like a play between them. So I think
Yeah.
I think this movie understands that because it understands that a lot of superhero stories are when aren't playing with like actual good and evil. It's the good and evil. It's basically just two people hate each other. They're fighting. Basically, this and not this. So, and I think the story understands that in a way that I feel is good. I think it understands well and leads to its themes of like behind the supervillain and superhero facade. This also happens to Batman. He's just like a guy after he dies, and which revealed he's actually alive, and just like he becomes a guitar there. This
Yeah,
is
he just chills in his mansion.
he like the only character that really plays into the superhero and supervillain aspect in a way that's like that's not performative. That's genuinely believing in itself and believing 100% is the incel guy that's bad because he has like this like he really wants that. He's like very much like
And he's full might makes right.
yeah.
Like he's powerful, so he deserves success.
Yeah, it's interesting. He's like the actual only villain in the movie with an actual ideology. Like it's interesting. The movie does actually a lot. Like I've said, for like the DreamWorks Kids movie, like I think it does a lot with playing with those ideas of like superheroes and supervillains and like by Megamind wanting to create another superhero, another person to play in the performances. What has happened is he created an actual master because the Jonah Hill's character is like he's not part of the normal performance. He's not part of the whole like playing the role. He's just like a very much guy who wants the goal, so he uses his powers for evil. I think it's very
Yeah,
clever
yeah.
about. I think it's a clever movie. I think this thematic it's doing a lot that I feel is very much nice. Do you have any other takes about the themes, the ideas of the movie?
No, I feel that's a good overview.
Despicable Me.
Fatherhood is some kind of moral virtue.
You become a dad, basically.
Become a dad, it's gonna make you less evil. I promise you.
I guess there's like a midlife crisis thing, you know. There's like maybe a midlife crisis with cool not having something in his life, but just like that something is like that's something that gives me is like a nuclear family basically. Like he doesn't get a wife, but he gets a wife in the second movie. That's a spoiler, but he gets a wife also in the second movie.
Yeah, they just make him a normal guy over time that also has minions.
Yeah, like it's very much interesting to see a movie like Megamind, like understand like non-normative behavior, and like kind of embracing it, and then the Despicable Me is like, you know how to not become an evil guy, you just become a dad. You become
Yeah, just have to become more normal.
it's just like it becomes like this, like the movie tries to be like this family drama, and from what I understand, the family drama doing like research and stuff, the family drama was gonna be much smaller part of it, but by the finished product, it's just this kind of like it's just this kind of just very annoying thing. Like it's just to fulfill one's life, you need to get the family. It's like I don't even think it's a harmful message when done well. Like I don't see saying the need for a family bad, but the thing is, he just gets some kids, be nice to them, minus, and fairness. It's just
Yeah, it tries to like do the humorous thing of like Bond villain who adopts kids as his scheme,
yeah.
but like it doesn't actually do anything really funny with it
It's
or
just,
like meaningful.
yeah. It's like I mentioned. Yeah.
The storybook scene is like emotionally effective, but like it's one scene or two scenes in a movie, and the
Yeah.
rest of it just doesn't like make it thematically like really cool or
It's
interesting.
it's just a very hollow movie, to be honest. Like looking up like Sergio Pablo's original idea and like the scripts, it very much seems like a movie that had some interesting ideas and like designs that got sanded down, basically.
Yeah. There's definitely like the concept art for this movie looks more interesting than the movie.
Yeah, yeah. So like, it doesn't really have. Do you have anything to say about the thematics about the spec?
No, not really. I'm sure you could like dig into it and find stuff, but it's really not that interesting
Okay,
thematically.
okay. Before we go, just answer me in one sentence. Just no arguing, just one sentence before we move on. I'm gonna ask you a question. Are the minions communists?
Did they see? No, no, they're not communists because they didn't seize the means.
Wow,
Like they're being controlled by one guy, and
wow.
they don't get like any reward for their work. Like they don't have they don't get the results of their labor for their own good. They're
Yeah.
not communists.
Wow, you got the question there. Now that's the means when that comes. Now let's go to the next thing. What's the next thing?
Okay, cultural relevance of megamind.
It's weird. I think Mega Man's very much alive because of the memes. It's getting a new show also very
Yeah,
soon.
yeah, I heard that. Peacock.
It's very
That's probably one season and then it's gone.
but yeah, it's very much like I think because of the funny blue guy, Will Ferrell guy, because of the specialness of the animation, like it's alive with the memes because it's a funny guy. And it has very much a cultural relevance that I feel like will always be reminded. And like a lot of people genuinely do like this movie.
I think like even I think the thing because they didn't do that many pop culture references, the movie is still funny without the memes nowadays.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you can watch it and laugh, and you can't say that for like other movies from like the time. Like I think the same director did Madagascar,
Yeah, yeah.
and like that's so much pop culture bullshit that like just people don't even remember anymore.
Wow, you don't like you need to move it, Ludo?
I love that song. It's so good. Um, but yeah, the movie is still funny and it also still looks pretty good. So I think it's still a good watch and people are still into it
Yeah, yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. Despicable Me is weird because I think the movies are not like here's the thing. Goo itself, the Despicable Me movies have been like overtoned by the minions. Because it's relevant, but it's only relevant because of the minions. Because
Yeah,
the minions are this weird syncretic thing of like even if you don't watch those movies like I mentioned before, to other people, there's Catholic minion memes or like Catholic grandparents or just post Catholic like Bible quotes with the minions there. It's they become like this weird like syncretic thing to put memes on and just overtaking a franchise.
this is the unholy birthplace of the minions. Uh, and the thing is really that minions just have overshadowed every single aspect of this movie except for that one meme with the PowerPoint presentation basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think this movie will be remembered in like 10 years or something,
No, no, I don't
but
remember.
people
Like
will
I've said,
remember the minions.
like I've said, people remember the Minions movies have overtaken things. Minions 3 is like a Goo origin story, but it's still the Minions 3 movie. That's mostly about the
Yeah.
Minions.
Yeah, that's basically it. Like the movie itself has like nothing to hold on to, like I don't know, except for maybe when people get nostalgic for like when they watch this as a child.
Yeah, this has nothing. I don't think people remember. Like people are not here like doing Ghoul memes. So like, this it's just not relevant besides the minions.
Yeah. I think that's a good recap of all that.
Cinematography.
There's not much there. Cinematography and animation, I guess, because
Yeah.
we are looking at two animated movies today.
Yeah.
Megamind. It looks great, and there's a lot of expressive facial animation and a lot of dynamic action scenes
Yeah.
that are framed very cool.
Yeah, like I've said, it's the animation. This is surprisingly really good. Even in the way like action scenes, the action looks really like expressive, elastic. It's
Better city fight than in Batman v Superman.
yeah,
So yeah, good looking movie, I would say.
yeah. I think it's a
And
bit.
animation holds up. Like for a movie that's 13 years old, this looks good.
Yeah, we liked it. I've said this a lot. I don't have a lot to say because the animation is just very expressive. It's like the start of like, I feel like this in Kung Fu Panda, like the start of like, even just kind of the current era of like DreamWorks stuff, like the bad guys and even like Puss in Boots. They just really started like a lot of expression and like comedy that they start then lean very fully into, like the later works.
Yeah.
It's very nice. I like it a lot. Despicable Me.
Despicable Me cinematography. There's some appealing looking bits, like when they show the big moon and shit.
Yeah.
And like the I like the design of his vehicle that he flies around with.
Yeah.
But the backgrounds often are very bare, and some of the designs are just terrible looking.
Yeah, it's like I mentioned before. This really feels like it's so weird. Like middle case of like, like people like the studio clearly having a French inspiration and European animation inspiration, and just then it's put into the American animation style. So you just get this weird in between that's like, kind of nothing. Like there's not a lot of
Yeah.
expressiveness. A lot. So I don't even say this a lot, but I even noticed a weird like frame rate shit in that CGI movie from 2010.
Damn.
I'm like, what the fuck is happening? It looks like the model's fucked up. Like I think you
They're
mentioned,
saving the frames.
like you mentioned this. I think you mentioned it. That some of the models look really bad in how they animate, which is fucking weird for the movie. For this came out in theaters, and normally this doesn't happen normally. It's so
Yeah, also you can tell that they're like working with as little assets as they can. Like there's never extra characters in the background doing anything because they just animated as many characters as they need at like minimum. And they didn't do any additional like extra characters.
yeah. That's
Like
just,
Megamind has all these people walking into cities and shit, and like in in Despicable Me, every scene has just like no people who aren't like the main characters in any scene.
the only scene you get is in the coffee shop scene. Like when the song starts playing, the Flair song. Just like
Yeah,
some
yeah,
people
yeah.
there. That's it. You like it's a very
It feels
random.
like very much like they worked on a budget and they had to like get it done with that money.
It just feels very like limited. It feels like they had like a very like limited like we can only do this, which is very
Yeah.
funny because did you read the Cartoon Boo interview I sent you by the letters of the
I
Despicable
think
Me?
so, yeah.
In that they talk about we want to revenize how we do comedy and animation stuff like that. Like if they try, I cannot see it in this movie. It all feels very static and very like
Hmm.
It's just not a lot to say. The animation just feels very kind of nothing like the movie.
Yeah. It didn't hold up as well as as Megamind because like it really reminded me of like YouTube children's animation in some parts just because the bare bones backgrounds.
Yeah. Like I've said, so it seems like a direct to video like animated movie.
Yeah, totally.
Music was the
Okay.
last thing.
Soundtrack, Megamind.
That's pretty
Hey,
good.
Alice.
Yeah.
Bad. Bad to the bone.
I fucking hate that song.
Yeah, I know.
I hate that fucking song.
Da, 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 da.
I would say this, it's better than the Suicide Squad use of that, like the first Suicide Squad movie.
A high compliment. It's better than Suicide Squad.
2016 or 15, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the soundtrack is fine. Like a lot of American like CGI kids animation does this, and like they have like I guess are they needle drops too though? Is this technically a needle drop? Like just
Yeah, I guess they're doing needle drops by like playing these famous songs.
yeah, but they do like needle drops, like just dropping a lot of this type of like famous songs, and like I don't care for most of it. I don't care for most of it in Megamind, but I don't think it's distracting. I think sometimes it works in Megamind, like the.
It fits thematically. It's just a bit funny in hindsight to see all these dad rock songs in a 2010 movie.
Yeah, but I think it mostly works for what it is. Like
Yeah. It's not like that it like messes with the movie's like vibe. Like it's still a pretty silly movie, so these are pretty silly songs to play.
yeah, I don't think it works. The Despicable Me, I think Despicable Me is worse on that front.
Yeah, Despicable Me has like a lot of Pharrell Williams, Robin Thicke, and the Bee Gees.
Yeah, kids love the Bee Gees, like they love the Godfather.
They love it when the man sing very high voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that soundtrack actually annoyed me actively in some parts, just because like it's really like 2010 bubblegum pop shit.
Okay, because this was a big hit even outside the movie. How do you feel about the Pharrell song?
I don't like that stuff.
Well, yeah, it's best.
Like I think Pharrell Williams had some cool songs, but that was in the 2000s.
Yeah, it's just kind of very traditional pop song thing.
This is already him on the way to making Lucky, and that's what's wrong.
Happy, not lucky. Happy. Oh no, Get Lucky is a different song though.
Yeah.
That's a song of the summer. Anyway.
That's the sound of the summer, right?
Yeah, but yeah, I think this is like, there's not a lot to say. I think the soundtrack is not good.
Yeah, both of these movies aren't really made by their soundtrack. Like, I think the original tracks in Megamind actually work quite neatly because they have like this superhero orchestral vibe.
Yeah.
And I think the original stuff in Despicable Me is just nothing. Did you know that album was produced by Hans Zimmer?
What? Like,
Yeah, the soundtrack of Despicable Me was produced by Hans Zimmer.
it makes sense. He's a bad composer. So I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, let's wrap this up. In the end, watch Megamind, not Despicable Me.
Yeah, it's rare that I just say, look, this movie is just better than the other movie. Just watch this one. But this is one of those episodes.
And before we end, we're going to select a new movie. Let's do the one numbers on later. 61. What's 61?
Okay.
Deep State 6 and Leviathan.
A Deep Star 6, not Deep State.
that would be a different thing.
Very different.
This about undersea horror films.
Good.
We're gonna talk about.
I actually like this because I have never heard of either of these.
Didn't you have Leviathan like last month?
No, we watched the other movie called Leviathan, the Russian one.
There's a two Leviathans.
Yeah. So looking forward to that episode. Hope you all enjoyed listening.
Yeah.
Alice, where can we find you online?
Alice Levois on Twitter. Alice Levois on Twitter. You co-host, talker from Portugal, etc.
Yeah. Same for me, Ludovico_limited on Twitter and co-host. Check it out.
Yeah, let's go.